Now I look back and I know that it needed to happen because if the universe hadn't knocked me down and literally hit me on the head to pay attention, I would have never gotten to where I am now.
Are you ready to transform your health journey? Welcome to the Holistish Podcast, where science meets holistic wellness to help you take control of your health. I'm Lianne, an osteopath with a background in psychology, athletic therapy, and occupational therapy, here to guide you through practical ways to feel your best without relying solely on doctor visits or prescriptions. Join me each week for deep dives, expert insights, and real-life wellness experiments as we explore the powerful connection between body and mind. Whether you're new to holistic health or just looking for fresh perspectives, you're in the right place. Let's start unlocking your healthiest, happiest self together. This is the Holistish Podcast. Before we dive in, a quick reminder. I'm an osteopath, not a medical doctor, and this podcast is for informational purposes only. The content shared here is based on my personal experience and education in health and holistic wellness. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have about your own particular situation and your health. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's get on with the show. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to another episode of the Holistish Podcast. Today, I have a special guest for you all. We are welcoming into the studio today Emily Fraser. She is actually another Canadian native, just like me, and she has a very powerful message through her online persona as the Spoonie Mentor. So Emily is someone who has had her own health challenges in life, but she hasn't let that slow her down. And now she has basically turned her pain into purpose by supporting others who are suffering from chronic illnesses or other types of debilitating injuries that make you have to really slow down in life. So she has a program that's called the Thriving Spoonie Pathway, which helps support people over many months in trying to get them to really pace their lives and to be able to get more function and try to find the different ways they can support their new realities after being diagnosed with a chronic illness or really starting to feel the effects of their chronic illness. So we had a wonderful conversation. I feel like we could have kept going because we do have a lot of similar values and missions in life, but she really dove into how she had this curveball thrown at her and how she really coped and managed to thrive despite all those challenges over time, and how now she gives back through her Spoonie mentorship. So I won't give anything else away. I'm going to send us off to the actual conversation that Emily and I had. And without further ado, here she is, Emily Fraser, everybody. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Holistish Podcast. So today we have Emily Fraser here with us, who's from actually a Canadian native, just like me. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So you and I met actually, we bonded pretty quickly when we were at a conference together out in Arizona, all about, navigating the online space. And I started to really be new to that space and starting to meet new people. And you were such a warm, welcoming light when I got there. Because I remember we were at this cocktail, you're trying to make friends, and I was there solo. And I was like, oh God. And then you came in as this beam of light and we really hit it off the bat really very early on. So I love that we're now connecting online and getting to talk more about your business today and just everything that you offer.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, no, I remember there was someone had put a little Canadian flag on one of the cocktail tables. I was like, okay, my people. And I found you there. And yeah, it was really cool to see the similarities we had and our different perspectives and similarities about how we approach health. And so, yeah, I'm so glad that we've maintained the connection and now we're doing this podcast.
Yeah, well, maybe I can admit this now, but I was actually the one who put the flags there. But then
you were?
I was. And funny enough, at first, no Canadians came. And I was just surrounded by Americans and just sitting there having my little cocktail. And people are like, oh, who put this Canadian flag there? And I was just like, I don't know. I just saw a free space at this table. I don't know.
No, I loved it. I was talking to some other people. I was like, sorry, I gotta go. I see my flag.
Well, I'm happy it eventually got you there, but I think I was a little embarrassed because it took a long time for people to see it. And I was feeling bad taking up a whole table. So then I just kind of I just kind of let it be. But apparently after I left, I saw a lot of people did gather there after. So I'm happy it brought people together.
A photo on the Facebook group after.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, good. I brought people together, but I didn't meet any of them. So Emily, tell me, we bonded because we were talking a lot about, I think we both suffered through a traumatic brain injury back in the day. And I think that was the beginning of your hero's journey, I think, for what you do today. So I would love for you to take us back to where everything started for you and how it led to you just having this amazing community of people that you help with different chronic illness. So please share.
Yeah, for sure. So, basically in 2018, I was a super high achieving teacher on so many different like nonprofit boards, playing oboe in different symphonies, and just basically never had any time for myself, was go, go, go. And I thought I was living the dream and feeling great. And then I was rear-ended as I was leaving my school, and everyone just thought, okay, simple concussion, you're going to get better, no problem. But days off turned into weeks, then months, then years on disability leave, just with so many complex and confusing symptoms that felt so difficult. I went from being like super able-bodied to being bedridden. And I remember a time where even turning over in bed made me so dizzy, made the whole world spin, or even like trying to take a bubble bath, which you would think would be relaxing, but the bubbles popping just felt like bombs exploding. Like I was basically stuck in this, like my nervous system was so dysregulated and I had so many different symptoms. And it really started a years-long journey of trying to figure out, going from doctor to doctor and health practitioner to different providers, trying different treatments and supplements, spending thousands of dollars trying to fix myself. And ultimately that journey led me now to the point where I started my own online business, and I'm now the Spoonie Mentor on Instagram. And yeah, I've really been able to use my own journey to help other people navigating similar situations of suddenly finding themselves on disability leave or stuck with debilitating fatigue and pain, and learning how do you actually navigate that and learn how to thrive on the other side.
Yeah. And how frustrating can it be to have your whole life just completely up-leveled like that? And
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I totally can resonate with how you say, just the little things like lying in bed and resting you think will help you get better. And then you switch positions and the world spins. Like you actually brought me back to my own suffering like that, where I was like, oh, I remember those spinnies and how are those not fun? And even the bubble bath, like it just changes your blood pressure, which just shows that something is just not feeling right. And these are all things that are supposed to help regulate you and help you feel better. And how frustrating is it when those normal tools for someone else can be so helpful and it just feels like it's still pushing back at you.
And I think it's so hard, especially with concussions, although I think the research is changing now in awareness, but it is one of those things that's invisible. Like you might look fine, but you're struggling with all of these symptoms, and the brain is such a fragile part of our body, and it affects so many different systems that, maybe I could address one thing here with one like vestibular physiotherapist, and then all of a sudden I'd be working on the emotional side with someone. Like it just really felt like I had so many different symptoms, and I was trying to find these different people to fix it one by one. I felt like this detective, and it was this puzzle I was trying to solve that just felt so complicated.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, there are some people who are so highly specialized in that one particular thing. And for some, that could be the big unlock. But if there's multiple things, or if you haven't found the one thing that's the big unlock for you, it totally can become such a frustrating process to really find that right, the moneymaker one that's going to help make you feel better.
Totally. And I now look back and say, okay, it wasn't just the concussion. Like obviously there were lots of things that went wrong, from the whiplash but I later found out I had a hypermobility disorder, and I had already had a chronic kidney disease, and my doctor basically just said, like, you know what? The car accident happened, and it kind of like triggered all these other things in your system that were just holding on. Because my husband said, like, every single fall you would have such big burnout from work, and you would be homesick for 2 weeks, like every year without a doubt. And I was like, yeah, honestly, I was pushing through. And I think that's one thing I really learned on my journey, was how to have awareness of my body and my mind, because I was already dealing with some chronic illnesses at that time, but I was so detached from my own body that I didn't even recognize it. That's how much it was ingrained in me just to push through.
Right. I can totally relate. Like, Emily, I feel like we had similar journeys because, well, the audience listening now may not know this, but I just spoke with your group the other day and I shared my journey with TBI. And it was very similar in the sense of, sometimes like the concussion, it's not that you're overdoing it or you're doing anything wrong, but if you're not listening to your body's cues, it's as if your body has this different wisdom that's gonna shove you into a timeout if you're not listening. So it sounds like a bit of a similar story. Like I shared that with my case with overtraining and studying and not sleeping enough. And then you start to lose attention to what you're doing and bam, that's when it happens. So I don't know if that's exactly how you would describe it for yourself, but it sounds similar.
No, definitely. I was just someone who craved external validation, and I came from like a music performance background, so you're just used to immediate gratification and applause from the audience, and okay, here's this competition, you get awards right away, scholarships, and suddenly I found that was honestly the most traumatic part about my whole brain injury was not being able to work and being home and not feeling any sense of purpose. I was just so confused about what I was supposed to do, and the only way I knew how to approach life was to do everything all at once. So that's how I approached my recovery in the beginning. Was I was going to 7 medical appointments per week at one point. Mm-hmm. Just truly, I was like, okay, if I do as much as possible, that's going to speed up my recovery. Looking back, I realized that was the worst thing I could have done because there was no way for me to even collect data on what modalities were improving any symptom. And ironically, it wasn't until years later that I actually just totally surrendered and stopped that I was able to listen to my intuition about what do I need to focus on. And that's what led me to truly eliminating my symptoms and being able to thrive and get back to living a life filled with joy and purpose.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's funny, because it's typical of the overachiever. You're used to accomplishing and getting that gratification, and your whole identity comes around either solving problems quickly because you're smart, you're bright, and you can do it, or on getting just that gratification in everything that you do. So of course we're going to put that into our recovery mode, right? I'm going to solve this, I'm going to get back to it. And again, your body just comes and pushes back more and starts pleading for that stillness. So what was it that really not forced you, maybe that's not the right word, but what was really that helped you get into that surrender, that unlock that you had to take that step back? What did that for you?
I mean, it was evolving throughout the time because I was forced to learn about like emotional resilience and different coping strategies throughout the journey. So it was evolving over time, but I distinctly remember there was a time when my disability leave was ending at the school, and I had attempted several failed return to works, and I could never work up to more than 6 hours per week. I remember like trying to go back and the fire alarm went off and I had a panic attack in front of the students. And it was just like, there were so many examples like that where I was walking through the hallways with sunglasses and earplugs. Like I was like, what am I even trying to do right now? Had an acupressure mat under my desk just to try and like recoup after teaching a lesson. But I remember them saying, you're unable to return to your position as a teacher. And like, unfortunately, your benefits and disability are going to run out. So then I was forced to try and find a new job. And I did. I was able to find a job at a university running mentorship programs. This was during COVID, which COVID was a blessing for me in that the pandemic made things way more accessible. And suddenly I realized, if I'm at home and can manage my own environment and online, like I can actually really do well. I was starting to improve at that point. And I was also forced to slow down on how many practitioners I was seeing at that time because everything went remote.
Right.
And I just remember then once we did go back in person, they forced me back into the office. I went right back. I hit a rock bottom, a huge flare up, and all my symptoms came back. I was needing to be driven to work. I was just, everything was spinning again, and I was in such pain. And I remember at that point, my sister had a child. So my nephew, I could barely even hold him without all this pain in my neck, back and shoulders, and the stimulation. And I just felt so hopeless because I had such a dream about becoming a mother one day. And suddenly I was finding myself on disability leave yet again with another job, which I thought was my answer out. Mm-hmm. And I just remember it was such a rock bottom period that I thought, I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that things had changed and I kept trying to get back to my old self. And I realized, I can't get back to her because I'm different now. And I need to actually accept and surrender to where I am now in order to build a lifestyle that accommodates my needs and where they're at. And that doesn't mean I lost hope for improving. It was just that I actually moved past those stages of the grief of losing your health, from denial to anger to frustration. I reached the point of truly accepting where I was. And ironically, it was that level of surrender that totally shifted my journey and led to all these improvements and me really committing to, let me actually pace myself. Let me truly slow down and rest. Let me put myself first. It was a whole journey of learning how to set boundaries and how to stop being a people pleaser and, really practice self-compassion that ultimately led me to where I am today, which is, I'm able to bike between like 2 mountain towns, which is something I couldn't even do before my concussion, just improving to a level where my capacity and level of energy is so much higher. And it really was that moment of like, if I'm ever going to live and feel at peace and happy again, I need to adapt to where I am so that I can get there.
Yeah. And I think the trickiest part is it's possible the scripts we put in our head of before the incident, were we actually that healthy? Were we actually doing the right things? Were we maybe we didn't have all these symptoms, but were we actually living the right way for us?
And absolutely. There was one quote that stood out to me. It was like, you can't heal in the environment that made you sick. And it was a huge aha for me that I was like, yeah, there is no going back. And then I remembered one craniosacral therapist was like, how close do you feel to like your old self? And I was like, I don't feel like I'm back to my old self, but that's a good thing because I'm like a new and improved version.
That's right. It's almost like it sounds so tough when you're going through it, and when you're really in the middle of it and you're down in the crevasse or in that muddy quicksand, it can really feel depressing and you feel lonely and you just feel like you just want to get back to where it was. But it's true that in order to really do better, it's almost like a wake-up call that you have to change. So as if you won't do it in a more conservative way, sometimes when we're hard-headed the way we can be by overperforming, our body will force us. And it looks like that's what happened to you and to me. So
yeah, no, that's honestly how I reframe it now. I look back and I know that it needed to happen because if the universe hadn't knocked me down and literally hit me on the head to pay attention, I would have never gotten to where I am now. And it was hard. And there were some days that I really felt like giving up. There's no doubt that, this whole journey is not an easy one, but in the end, and I see it now with the clients that I work with and the people that are truly able to go on this journey of personal development and learning to see the connections between like unprocessed emotions and sensations they're feeling in the body and all sorts of things about nervous system regulation and boundary setting, that for me, I realize it's only because I went through these hardships that I was able to learn the skills. And it ultimately led to me where I am now, helping other people on that journey. So I think to myself, if I hadn't gone through it, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And that's, I think, one of the benefits of post-traumatic growth is when you're able to look back and say like, yeah, this needed to happen and I wouldn't change it, even though it was so freaking hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, especially when it has a traumatic aspect to it, that never leaves you, the fact that maybe it was a trauma, but being able to switch it into, all right, I've learned from it. And now you can be a guide for others who maybe you can be the guide for those you wish you had when you were going through that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
And now you do that with in your everyday. So tell me more about how did you decide to really have that call to go and help others?
Yeah, so along the journey, I had started an Instagram account anonymously just to track my recovery. And I would just share things that were going on. Originally, it was called Post-Concussion Support, I believe. And then I realized having that space of community was so helpful, and it was helpful for me to document everything and see my progress. And honestly, Instagram became an amazing resource for learning a lot of things and connecting with other accounts. And I kept noticing there was this hashtag Spoonie. And every time I found a post with that hashtag, it really resonated. I was like, what the heck is a Spoonie? And I would go and try and figure it out. And ultimately, I learned that Spoonie is basically a term that a lot of people, like hundreds and thousands of people, maybe even millions of people, identify with, that represents anyone who is dealing with chronic fatigue. So people who are sick, people with chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, injuries, like in our case, brain injury, and just anyone with disabilities, particularly I've noticed invisible disabilities. And it really is a way for people to connect with each other. And the reason why the term Spoonie got developed is because this woman named Christine Miserandino, in 2003, I believe, she's a chronic illness blogger, and she was out for lunch with a friend who was trying to understand what it was actually like to live with her chronic health condition. In this case, it was lupus. And so because they were at a restaurant, they had a bunch of spoons available. So she laid out the spoons and said to her friend, okay, go through your day and like, tell me what you do. So the friend was like, okay, I get out of bed. And so she took away a spoon. And then the friend's like, okay, I take a shower. And then she took away a couple of spoons. And basically she hadn't even gotten halfway through her day when all the spoons were gone. And it was suddenly like a really explicit way to visibly show that people who are spoonies, people who live with chronic fatigue, have like a lower energy battery source. And so we have to really carefully plan out what we're going to do in a day so that we don't end up like, because once you have 0 spoons, like you're tired, you're lying in bed. And it was this way to explain, like, no, you don't realize like driving 30 minutes is a huge Spoonie task, and working, let alone any type of cognitive, emotional, or physical task drains spoon levels. And suddenly people adopted the term Spoonie, and it blew up. And it's everyone's always confused, like, why is it spoons? And like, I agree, like a battery is maybe a more easy to understand, like thinking about an energy budget. But for me, I think it's stuck because referring to yourself as a Spoonie is a lot more fun and lighthearted than being like, I'm disabled,
Yeah. And I remember the first time you explained it to me, I think it actually landed better with a spoon, because a spoon is a tangible tool that we use every day. Whereas a battery, we use it, but we don't ever really know how much is actually in the battery. So maybe a battery in theory is cool, but you can look at someone and from the outside, they might look like they actually have a lot of energy, but it might be that they just depleted all their energy in that interaction, and then they go home and they lie in bed, and you won't know the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas
in our community, we've coined the term vampire spoons, which is like spoons you thought, or no, there's a couple. There's ghost spoons where it's like you thought they were there, but they actually weren't, and you used them. So that just leaves you in a flare up. Or vampire spoonies are like people who steal your spoon. Those people who are like energy vampires. They just drain your spoons. So even just being around a certain person can make you more tired. And so there's all these cute expressions like, I'm sending spoons, and that's something you say to each other to like, so I'm sending love and support and energy and healing. And or there's cute stickers I've seen on Etsy that are like, my spoons are in the dishwasher, which is like a phrase for when you're resting, or a more like aggressive stickers I've seen that are like, no spoons, only knives. So it's just like a cute and playful way. And I found a great way to connect the community when we all might have very different complex conditions. It brings us together in our shared similarities.
Quick pause for a second. I just wanted to take a moment to say, if this material is resonating with you, I would love for you to come and join my free community over on Skool. That's skool.com. The group I have is called Ask the Osteopath, and we talk about all different types of topics around your health and well-being. Yes, there's foundations in osteopathy, but we keep it to a broader range all around holistic health and wellness in order to optimize your everyday well-being. So if this sounds like a place you'd like to be, I invite you to go to skool.com/osteo. And now, back to the episode.
I love it. It is more lighthearted because it can be a very heavy subject. So to bring in a bit of humor and play into it through the wording can actually be more empowering than to just think of it as a battery or what have
Totally.
you.
Yeah. And I never thought that I would then my anonymous account that I was randomly doing just for myself. Like, I remember the day that I decided to show my face and start showing up. And then eventually it became like the same account that I turned into the Spoonie Mentor, which if people scroll way back, they'll see it's all about my brain injury journey. And then it was about my failed attempts to return to work and my disability leaves. And it's really been like in a sense, a blog for me about my health journey. And today to know that, that platform has become my business where I people that connect with me through there often join my Thriving Spoonie Pathway program, which, is just an amazing community where I really guide people through like the exact steps that I took in order to get to the point where I am thriving. And it was like the different building blocks that I was learning throughout my journey. And I think it helps, of course, that my background was as a teacher. So I'm able to just share the information in a way that makes it accessible to people, which is what a lot of people say they love about my content, because it can be overwhelming to learn about the nervous system and all these different things. And I myself, I don't consider myself like sciencey. Like, yes, like I can. And the reason why is because I had to go in and learn and really figure it out and look at it from all angles till I finally grasp it. And I think being able to then explain it to other people, it helps, versus people who really have like a science mind are just like, okay, I get it. And I'm like, but I don't like help.
Well, it doesn't mean, I don't think you need to have a scientific mind to get it, but I think you have to really know how to synthesize the information. So it sounds
Exactly.
like, and you have to be interested to really synthesize. So because this is a story that you were so tied to with your own recovery, bit by bit, you just gain more personal experience and then gain the knowledge all at the same time. And that usually creates the best path for someone who can then synthesize and then teach to others after.
For sure. And I can't tell you the number of times people have said like, this course should be taught in high school or elementary school. And it's like, yeah, like my hot take is that honestly, everyone is a spoonie. We are all people who need to learn how to manage their energy and like make sure not to burn out and plan their days out. And burnout is just such a common term now. And so many people have dysregulated nervous systems and don't even know it, because our culture, like our hustle culture, just promotes this go, 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 where even like taking time off at work or anything is like judged,
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know I just grew up with a background where it was hustle from the get-go. Like, I think I grew up with that belief of if you're not hustling, you're lazy and you're not valued. And I'm not saying anyone ever said that to me. It's just when you see everyone else around you just go, 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 and you feel guilty taking a break, it can definitely start the path to getting more ill over the long term.
Yeah. I mean, my entire business is basically built around helping people learn how to rest. And it might sound so simple, but that takes time, because we have such deeply ingrained neural pathways that are telling us like, rest is lazy and like your worth is attached to how productive you are. We all have these different scripts and stories that are making us feel weak if we do take a break. And the reality is like it takes unlearning and rewiring to change those thought processes. And it also, I remember one of the first things I did was like, how do you rest? Like when I was on disability leave, like I literally didn't know what to do with myself because I had never had.
Same. Like when I was with post-concussion syndrome and like, just getting up to go take a walk was too difficult. All I could do was sit there and maybe watch a little bit of TV. But like, after watching a few episodes of something, the voice starts kicking in going, what are you doing? And I couldn't even label it as rest then. I still couldn't label it that. It took a long time for me to finally accept that. Yeah, my brain needs rest and it's okay. And it's crazy how long it can take to unwire those connections of rest is needed. And it's funny that even now today, I like to think I manage my spoons better. But the moments when I don't, I sometimes then force me like, okay, just go to bed. And it's amazing how when you actually take a break and either take a nap or go to bed at a good time or go for a walk outside, you actually come back to what you were doing and you're way more efficient, you're way more focused, you're way more energized in order to keep going. But it's funny how sometimes we get caught in that flow, or that, I don't know, maybe it's the chatter in your brain that just goes, no, I got to finish, I got to perform, I got to accomplish. But it doesn't mean the work's going to be that much better. It's sometimes you're better to take that step back, but it's the whole unlearning, like you're saying, that needs to happen.
100%. Like, one of the biggest things people struggle with is, we call it the completion compulsion, where you just like, you're like, I need to finish this task I'm on. Like, I can't take a break. Even if like there is awareness that like, okay, I'm starting to feel symptomatic, I do need to take a break. And it's just this urge to push through. And, you know, a lot of people misunderstand what rest is. Like, they're like, okay, I'm going to go lie down and then listen to a podcast. I'm like, well, depending on what stage you're at and how big your rest deficit is, that's not true rest. Like, you might need sensory rest where your brain isn't processing any information. Or maybe you need creative rest where you're doing something that nurtures your soul because you haven't done anything like that. Or maybe you need physical rest where you're actually going out in nature and going for a walk and getting the blood flowing and the oxygen to the brain. So that's another misconception, is just, for some people, they think, okay, once I've used up my spoons, I'm just done for the day. But I'm really trying to raise awareness around the fact that no, like, there are ways to restore your spoons. And that means learning about the many different types of rest and being able to interpret what your mind and body needs in any given moment so that you can restore your spoons throughout the day. And that's really what pacing is to me, is learning how to use spoons and then alternate it with restoring spoons so that you never end up burnt out or in a flare up.
Right. Like, I remember, I remember when I was doing my master's degree, I did a whole literature review on pacing, but that was already, that was in 2010, 2011. So I feel like activity pacing was maybe not revolutionary at the time, but it was still something newer that I was learning about with dealing with chronic pain. So I imagine it's only taken off since then, since I last really learned about it.
I mean, honestly, not. I feel like so few doctors will often say, like, you need to pace yourself. And everyone will be like, okay, but how? And the reality is the doctors don't know. Like, I've actually met with doctors who have like sat down and asked me to teach them my pacing strategies because they're like, they themselves need it because like being in medicine, like, it's such hustle culture, the long hours and the endless years of studying and practicing. It's interesting to me how it all works out. But yeah, like, people really don't know how to pace, and there's different methods. And I think what's so powerful is that the pacing strategies I teach are like based on my trials of what actually works as someone who is a spoonie, versus it can be easy for like someone to just say like, do this and do that. And like, without that lived experience makes a difference. But it's really fascinating to me how few people even understand what pacing is or the power of it. Like, genuinely, like, when people actually commit to pacing, like, I remember someone who'd been a spoonie her entire life, and then suddenly she's like, I've been pacing for 2 weeks and I don't have any brain fog, and like, I have way more energy. And she was freaked out. She's like, oh, what is this? Someone who like implemented the pacing strategies and then was able to go and do an international dance competition, like the most dancing she'd done in years. And I'm like, yes, people, like, pacing is actually so powerful.
It is,
if you know how to do it. But it's all these, well, I mean, it's a simple concept, but when you look at all the layers of conditioning around what rest means and how to rest, and yeah, it's more to unpack and peel back the layers to figure out how to actually do it. I mean, it took me years to figure out. So
for sure. Like, I remember reading on the literature, and even I was implementing it with patients I would work with in clinic when I was training to be an occupational therapist. And funny enough, I had my own chronic aches and pains that still weren't resolved at the time, but I was still in the hustle culture myself and wasn't actually applying it to myself because I was like, yeah, this is good for other people, but I don't have time for that. So I can totally see how you can know how good it is. And it is simple in concept, but sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things to implement.
And just telling someone like, take more breaks, slow down. It might sound simple, but this is to say to anyone who is trying and struggling, like it's very normal if you're struggling, because there are so many factors at play, and there's a part of you that is benefiting from not slowing down. And that's like the part that's really dominant right now. So just like really taking time to peel back those different and speak to those different parts of yourself to be like, okay, like why do you feel the need to push through right now? Why is there resistance to resting? And just getting curious about what our body might be trying to tell us. And yeah, I really think that, to me, nervous system regulation is such like a hot topic right now. Or maybe it's just because this is the like industry I'm in now with health and wellness, but I really believe that a lot of people are talking about nervous system dysregulation.
Everyone and their dog is talking about nervous system regulation, and I'm not even sure everyone even understands what it means.
Well, for me, I'm like, I see this talk about nervous system regulation, and people are talking about like, okay, like, I don't know, cold plunging or all these different things, meditating. And yes, these are definitely are tools that work. And yet, to me, if you don't have a foundation of pacing, regardless of if you're a spoonie or not, like there's no way to regulate your nervous system if you're never allowing it space to like get into a zone where it feels safe and regulated.
Absolutely. Like if you're always running on your sympathetic nervous system and then you decide to go do a cold plunge, alternating in a hot sauna, you are not getting into rest and digest state. You are going to stay in that sympathetic state, and you're going to keep your hormones running high. You're going to keep your fatigue level very, very high, because you're never, like you're saying, getting that space to come down. So
yeah,
it's almost like you need to have that space to come down first, and then get yourself into the training of living in those two extremes and being able to transition back and forth.
Yeah, that's why I think working with someone who understands these concepts is so important, because for a lot of people, I would say the majority of people I work with come in this constant state of hyperarousal, like this activated state where they feel anxious, and like maybe they're like yelling at their partners more, or family members, and don't really understand why they're so prone to anger. So in that case, yes, it's about teaching the strategies of resting more to like bring like that like calm sensation to the body, get in the window of tolerance. But for some people who have been bedridden for years and have just given up and decided, you know what, I'm a spoonie, in many cases, they're in this hypoarousal shutdown mode where they, in that case, pacing to them, they might be receiving the message that it means rest more. But in those cases, you actually need to be adding activation into your system in order to get into ventral vagal. And like, that's where a lot of people, it can be so confusing. First, even like if you don't even know what these terms I'm using are, it's like having education about how your nervous system works is foundational, so that, because it's so empowering for people. Like when I realized, like when I was super depressed and just stuck, to realize that wasn't me failing, that was my nervous system trying to protect me in the way it knew how, was so validating. And realizing like, even though it's the last thing you want to do when you're in that mode and feeling low, going out for a walk is going to be the best thing for you. Like forcing yourself to move your body so that like you can get into a place where you feel at ease again. And that's where having the community and support and mentorship is key, because like, trust me, when you're in that state, that's the last thing you want to do is do anything.
Yeah. Like I can admit, even where, you know, you get down into that low energy state and there's a party that wants to get back to getting to all that hyperactivity. And the worst thing you can do, for example, is go watch like an Instagram influencer who's showing you how to do heavy deadlifts and go, yeah, I'm going to go do those and get active again. It's like you're saying, it's all about the balance of where you're actually at. That's going to help you to get better. So exactly, like I'm all for a walk outside in the sun. I can't tell you how many times, if I get stuck, even to this day, you know, no one's perfect. I'll get stuck in my flow with work and I'll finish my day and go, oh, like I feel like crap. And maybe I don't have enough spoons left to do my day. But I'll force myself out for a walk, even if the sun is setting. And just that will still put you in a calmer state and you're to come back and finish up just the last few little things. And it helps recenter you to reprioritize. All right, what's important for today to end and go to bed and get rested in order to take on tomorrow.
Totally. And it's not about there's always just one correct answer of what to do in order to regulate yourself. Like that's where I think both of us really believe in like teaching people how to listen to their bodies and their intuition for that guidance of what to do next. Because, you know, my day is fully intuitively guided in terms of like I wake up when my body wakes up. And then, you know, I'll do a bit of work and then like I'll take a break and I'll ask myself like, okay, like what does my body need right now? And it varies. And to this day, I still follow my pacing strategies because I know that the more I implement them, my energy continues to expand. Like I'm about to head on a 2-week trip to Europe. It's going to be my first time flying like abroad. Like I've been to Mexico for resorts, but that was purely for like, let me do absolutely nothing. Like this is going to be my first trip since my concussion in 2018 and after COVID that I'm actually going somewhere and like going to be a tourist and like walk around. And I'm so excited, but I'm also a little scared because I'm like, okay, like I haven't asked my body to do this kind of thing. And that's why I'm pacing. I'm like, I need to build up my spoon so that I have enough for that trip.
Yeah, but also, okay, fine. Having been to Europe and done stuff like that, you might lose some spoons in the jet lag. But it, like you're saying, it's all about honoring your body and setting it up that like, yeah, you walk for a bit. And if you're tired, it's okay to go back and just take a rest at your Airbnb or your hotel. And you can do more later. Because on top of just the more walking you probably will be doing in your day or exploring or hiking or what have you, the jet lag will factor into that for a few days. So, yeah, but you're already well equipped.
I am approaching this trip with such a different mindset because the way I used to travel, because I used to go on big extravagant trips like every summer off because I had summers off as a teacher. So me and my friend or my husband would go, and my friends would always joke that if they went on a trip with me, like I would book everything and have like the itinerary fully mapped out, like hour to hour of like, this is what we're doing each day. And I would look back and I'm like, that was such a horrible way to travel because I was never mindful. I never slowed down. It was just, let me check the boxes to see as much as I can while I'm here, which is very indicative of where my entire like attitude towards life was. Like, that's how I lived my life, was let me get the most out of it and do everything I can. And now this whole trip, like I've so intentionally scheduled like nothing, like one restaurant, and my husband really wants to see the catacombs in Paris. So those are the only two things we've booked. And like, that's part of where the nerves are coming from because it's different and that feels unsafe to my nervous system. Yeah. But I know it's a good feeling because I look forward to a trip where I'm not mapping everything out, where I'm not going to be hustling, where I'm going to actually enjoy and like go to a cafe and just people watch and like try to find really great food and not like do all the things that are just tourist traps and just try to experience the culture. And I'm really looking forward to it, but I also like, it's so hard to like, I still have those old patterns that want to come through.
For sure. It's hard to let them go. But I think the fact that you're aware of it and you're still going, nope, I see you, overachieving, wanting to overplan person in me, but let's try this route and see how it feels. Because I've done a bit of both. I've been the overplanner. I've been the itinerary person. And actually, I maybe wasn't fully into the free flow, peace and love state back then, but I did do a very impromptu trip once with a girlfriend of mine. She was like backpacking in Costa Rica and had no plan. And there was something in me, this was even before the concussion, mind you, but I just went, we got to go. But I felt that security that she was okay with the improv. But if it was me by myself, it would have been all planned. And honestly, I'm still not ready to go and do another trip like that again. But I must say the experience of the improvisation while traveling, it is unmatched because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know what you're going to fall into in your day. And going to Paris like that with nothing planned, you are going to find the best little cafe to discover in this random little corner that only the locals know. You're going to end up just doing a nice walk near the Eiffel Tower and just enjoy the day and not have to worry about, we got to be at the Louvre by 5:00. Like, you are going to have way better of a time just immersing yourself in and letting the environment lead you.
Absolutely. And like, even like part of our trip, we're in Mallorca, and like I purposely found a hotel that has like a hydrotherapy spa access you can access every day. And I'm like, yeah, like my husband wants to go do these huge cycling trips because the region's known for that. I'm like, I'm just going to chill at the spa and enjoy myself, like, you know, making these intentional breaks. And it's just this slow living way that I've adopted now. And I mean, I obviously have so much privilege running my own business now and being able to take that time off, but also to, when I'm at home, to be able to take those breaks, because I work with people and help them on their return to work plans and navigating the whole like HR and disability. And it's hard, like just getting those basic accommodations of like, can I have a flexible schedule and can I work from home a couple of days? And I just hate how challenging it is to navigate in this world. And like a lot of the work I do as well is like about disability advocacy and like teaching people, how do you advocate for yourself and how do you recognize the systemic barriers in place? Because especially Spoonies, people with invisible health conditions, they struggle to actually explain how they're struggling and the supports they need, because, you know, if someone breaks a leg, it's pretty obvious. People can see it. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, you know, I guess you can't, we need an elevator. We need to relocate classes. Like that's when I was a teacher, it's like those kind of things. Accessibility is a lot easier to understand in that case. Mm-hmm. But when it's like, you look at someone and they seem fine, and so many Spoonies push through and pretend they're not in pain, it's a lot harder for people to understand, like, what is going on and what do you mean? What do you need? And even for people who don't even know what kind of accommodations can help them, like, it's just such a challenge.
Well, that's it. If you're coming from a space where you put your own personal needs aside for a long time, which led to maybe this lower energy or burnout kind of state, it's possible you don't know what you need. And that can be hard too, is to express. And then you may find it more challenging to advocate for yourself because you don't even know what you need. You just know you need some sort of support. But knowing myself personally, I think when I was in that state, I found it hard to express support in my studies because I never had to make a complaint about anything before. So it's almost like you feel uncomfortable all of a sudden having to do that. But by not expressing at least what you need and ask for help, you know, you're not doing yourself any favors either.
Yeah. And these are like tangible skills that I realize need to be taught. Like, how do you advocate for yourself? And how do you know like what accommodations can help you? And even as far, like, I remember when I was really in the early days of my Spoonie journey and just like stuck in bed, I remember at that point I was meditating a lot because that was the only time I felt like any relief from my symptoms. And I happened upon one that like invited me to like practice self-compassion. And I was like, what is this? I was however old, like in my late 20s. And I had never, ever practiced self-compassion before. I remember like this like ick feeling came throughout my body. I was like, like a resistance. And now I practice self-compassion so much. And I like just to tell my clients, yeah, like be more compassionate with yourself. And I remember like, it's not as simple as just saying that. Like we have to actually like break down how is this done and how do you do it and make your nervous system feel safe around that.
Yeah. And what might be blocking you from actually allowing yourself to feel that self-compassion? I know some people can be, especially in those kinds of situations, they can be so compassionate towards others, but they won't be towards themselves because they must hold themselves to either a higher standard or they don't feel like they deserve it. There are different reasons why, I imagine, but it's so hard to shift, to come to that realization. But I hope when it clicks that it actually leads to more of it.
Yeah, I mean, they're like one of the factors that definitely impacts people who have chronic health conditions, pain or fatigue, or autoimmune, it really is this like incessant urge to meet the needs of others, to take care of others. Like we're natural caregivers. A lot of times because of our childhoods and what we learned about caring for others and the praise we received, and it becomes part of our personalities. Whereas I remember experiencing a lot of resentment and anger in the early days because I was like, how come my friends aren't showing up for me? Like someone had their appendix removed and then the school had sent them flowers. And meanwhile, I'm like literally on disability leave, like in so much pain and nothing. If someone got cancer at the school, they set up a meal train. And meanwhile, I can't cook for myself. Like I can't do anything. And it was just, It took me a long time to realize that people aren't mind readers, even though I'm someone who would assume and be able to meet the needs of someone else, even if they didn't tell me. I learned like I need to explicitly like say either what I'm dealing with or what I need. Like, hey, and once I started doing that, I was like, oh, of course, like people aren't mind readers. You need to like ask for what you need and not just be resentful that they aren't showing up for you in the way you want. And those kind of like effective communication skills, being assertive when people feel like it's aggressive, they don't want to be aggressive. It's like, no, like you're being so passive right now. Like nobody knows what you actually need or want right now.
Yeah, I think that is a big challenge. And I don't know if you see that more in women, particularly because women are usually modeled, doesn't mean it's done on purpose. I think it's just generations and generations of conditioning where we are trained to usually put ourselves aside and make sure everyone else is okay. We're usually the caregivers. We're usually the default parent. We're usually the supporter of our husband who goes for the big career while we may be willing to sacrifice more. I know those gender roles are starting to change, but there are some people who are progressing faster towards that equilibrium than others.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you notice that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's a reason why 80% of people with chronic illness are women because of those gender norms. And even if you weren't raised in that way, like the research coming out around intergenerational trauma and like the things that our parents and grandparents experience, like it literally gets passed into our DNA and shows up in our experience. So even like a big part of my journey, there were so many different modalities that helped me, but like doing ancestral work was actually a big part of it because I was like, wow, like I'm half Korean. So I had like the Japanese invasion in Korea and then the Korean War and all of these different factors. Like my ancestors lived through a lot and like I still felt like I was carrying a lot in it. So when I was doing like the more spiritual, like, unburdening of all of those traumas, like it really did help me. And I love like, I think to heal from physical symptoms requires, and I know you agree with me, like mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment. And for people, it's so integral to be able to look at us as a whole person and to heal from anything physically. Yeah, you have to like dig deep and like figure out what might have led to you experiencing these symptoms in the first place. And that's kind of the beautiful thing is realizing this healing journey is so much more than we initially might think.
Absolutely. Like I 100% agree that it's a multifactorial reason that we end up expressing our lives the way we do. And I can also vouch for, is it necessarily generational trauma? I wouldn't say that, but I have noticed how through the lineage, how different beliefs and patterns can be passed on. I remember actually at one point I was getting some intergenerational, we call it lesions. It's a tough word. It's a heavy word to use in osteo because it's not actually a big physical injury that's like, holy crap, but we call it in osteopathy a lesion. But it's, when I was releasing this, it was on an energetic level. And as I was releasing it, I had flashes of seeing like dry, vast, open field of a farm that was not thriving. And that was from my grandfather's side, who grew up in Hungary on a potato farm. And, they didn't have a lot of money back then. It was around the First World War and things were very, very lean. And when he came to Canada, it was all about thriving and succeeding. And it's as if that passed on in my DNA. And one day I finally released it. And that actually, I didn't realize to what level I was carrying that. And I'm still getting a little choked up as I talk about it, but it really shows how we can carry that without even realizing the pressure that we can put on the next generations when we don't resolve it for ourselves. So I hope the day that I actually release that, they say in osteo, that when you treat one person, you can treat your whole family. So sometimes you might feel frustrated at your family for passing something on to you or whatnot, but actually by doing the work yourself, it actually, I think, unlocks something in your own field, in your own way of being and how you carry yourself. And you actually can, through an indirect effect, help everyone else start to heal as well.
Yeah, there's a beautiful expression that when you're doing this healing work, you're not only healing yourself in the past 7 generations, but also the future 7 generations, which I just think is such a beautiful expression. And yeah, like I was someone who was just seeking so many answers. So whether it was like going to psychics or crystal healers or doing past life regressions or seeing, neuropsychiatrists to osteopath to chiropractor to everything, like I saw everything from the whole spectrum of like super evidence-based to like sketchy, but like, let's try it.
And how did all that go for you?
I mean, I think it was everything was interesting and played a part. And it's also about how I interpreted it and whether it was helping me, because like the placebo effect is a lot more powerful than the nocebo effect.
For sure.
What's so fascinating about that is I remember when I was so desperate, I signed up for this trial going on at the university. So I had to drive to the hospital every weekday for a month, while it was called repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. So they were literally zapping my brain, and like it hurt, and they were doing all these wild tests, and I was like, oh man, like being driven to the hospital every day, it's like, it's so draining.
Yeah.
And I only recently found out, because the study concluded it was specifically for people with brain injuries. The study concluded that the people who were in the test group, which I later found out I was in, they had more significant improvements than the people who actually received the treatment.
Really?
And what's so interesting to me about that is like, I could have been disappointed. Like, I didn't actually get the treatment, but I thought I was receiving it, and therefore I experienced improvements.
Exactly.
So it's like, does it even matter? As long as you believe it's working, then it will.
Yeah. Well, there is a big part of belief. And even as an osteopath, when I put my hands on people, I can feel like things are changing. But if the person on the table isn't also tuned into that and working with me, I can feel whatever I want and feel that things are getting better. But if they don't get on board and start feeling that release, they tend to go right back into their pattern. And I'll go back another time and refill that same zone, and we're right back where we started. So it really becomes like if you're able to tune in and get on board with your own healing, that you can create, fine. If it's a placebo effect, great. But as long as you're getting on board with and tuning in and working with your body to help the release, that's what matters more than the actual intervention.
Yeah, because I mean, I tried every intervention possible, like truly. But for me, I will say, when I fully slowed down and stopped going to all these different providers and really was like, okay, like, I accumulated like 20 extra diagnoses along my way, because every specialist you go to is going to slap new labels on you. So I had to learn, like, I am not my diagnosis, like shifting that identity. Like, I really love the idea of like thriving Spoonies. That's what we call my community, because it's like a new way of looking. Like, you can still thrive alongside your health conditions. Like, even though I have diagnoses, I'm thriving today because of how I live my life and the way I view myself. But when I slowed down and really got in touch with my intuition and the guidance I was receiving, like, there was these PRP injections that had always intrigued me, but I had kind of been afraid. So platelet-rich plasma injections, for people who don't know, they're really popular in like cosmetics too these days, like vampire facials. They basically take your blood, spin it in a centrifuge so that it turns a beautiful golden color, and then they use that to inject into different areas. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. I had avoided Botox and all these things, even though they'd been offered to me to deal with migraines and pain and nerve blocks that had been offered, because I just didn't like the idea of injecting these things. I didn't know much about what these chemicals were going inside of me. And so I was like, I like the idea of my own body repairing itself. So eventually I did do that. I did 3 rounds of PRP, and that combined with me starting my business, and really I had to walk the talk of what I was teaching. Like, I was, for the first time, had to lay out everything I had done and put it in a sequence for my course. And I was walking the talk and doing it all. And like, that combined with PRP truly is what was a game changer for me. And so I will say, for people who experience chronic pain, and like, they injected like my suboccipitals and like my neck, my shoulders, like all over. And it's incredible what it did. Because for me, I'll just share this anecdote in case people also are struggling with post-concussion, because so much we think could be coming from the brain, but it's really stemming from our neck. I found out that all the people I was going to see, they were loosening my neck because it was presenting as really tight. But because I then found out I have hypermobility, actually my neck hyperextended in my accident. And so what I really needed was strengthening. So once I got matched with a physio who understood this and had hypermobility herself, and like was able to like show me how to do it in a gradual way, paired with the PRP injections, like, it was just such a game changer for me to realize like the missing piece. And I truly believe that it was because of all of the mental, emotional, spiritual work I'd done at that point that I was ready to receive that and get to that point of healing. I'm not saying PRP is going to be the answer for whoever, but once you get to this place of like really being open and trusting, like I feel like that's when the right person, healer or provider or modality can show up in your life that's really can be the game changer.
Agreed. I think if you stay closed off to a lot of different things that could be beneficial, even if that one game changer aspect shows up to you and you're not ready to accept that that might be your solution, you're for sure going to miss your chance. And, you know, I'm not saying everyone, it's a one and done deal and then forget it, but definitely I agree that it's once I got more open to all the different things that could be possible is when actually the healing really started.
Yeah. And because, you know, one thing that doctor said to me was like, if you've gone to see someone 6 times and you're not seeing lasting results, like you shouldn't keep going back to them. And meanwhile, I had spent like how much money going back to so many different people over and over and over again. I was like, you're right. Like it's a Band-Aid. I'm not actually fixing the root issue. And I think that's really worth thinking about, because unfortunately there are some health providers that are just like, they're going to keep taking money for you if you're going to keep coming back. And you really have to ask yourself, like, is this actually helping me and providing lasting change, or is it just getting me until the next session?
That's right. Like when I started treating more people with post-concussion syndrome in my osteo practice, that was one of the first things I would start to tell them is like, listen, this is one thing that could help you, because sometimes a lot of certain structures will really block up in the body, or they might be hypermobile. So sometimes we don't know when you first start, but one rule of thumb I'd always tell them is, look, we're going session by session. In the beginning, I might see you once every week or every 2 weeks. But if you don't start seeing any progress after 3 weeks, that's because I'm not the right person for you. And honestly, I think that really does comfort people when that comes from a therapist perspective. So anyone out there who might be listening who does this kind of treatment for people as a physio, as an osteo, acupuncture, what have you, it's possible that you do have that goodwill, that you do want to help, but you might just get them more on board if you express that, look, I'm here to help you progress, but if you're not progressing, please feel comfortable either asking me for a reference or to see someone else to help, because sometimes that's what it might be you have the best solution in certain cases, but it might not work for everybody.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not necessarily just the modality. Like, I mean, I saw like 6 different physiotherapists, and I saw like 5 different acupuncturists, and like however many massage therapists. Like, it's also sometimes not the right person, even it might be the right modality. But for me, I remember when I found people who I like really appreciated, it was really hard when I made that decision to just truly step back from all treatment and like go just with this like PRP and this other physio I had found. I felt like I was like abandoning like my team who had like been supporting me for so many years.
Aww.
Like I still feel guilty that I like left them. But like that's another common thing that a lot of people dealing with burnout or chronic illness struggle with, is like the people pleasing of like, you know, at a certain point you have to do what's best for you, regardless of what you assume other people are going to feel or think.
But also like 100%. And that's one thing where if I can be on the other side of the coin, I think people need to just realize most therapists aren't that emotionally attached that way. Like I often tell people, look, as long as you're getting the help you need, personally, like it's not that I don't care. It's just, I want you to get relief. So it's like, please, if I'm not helping you, don't keep coming back for my ego. Like if anything, it's not helping for me to see you not progress every week. But what's funny is I do have a client or two where they still come back and they want to come back every week, and we're always treating the same thing. And I'm like, listen, like I have to tell them at one point, like, we got to cut this off. Like this isn't getting you forward. And they go, no, but I'm loyal. I'm like, screw your loyalty. Like,
well, that just shows that you're really good. Like
we try, you try. Cause honestly, it doesn't do me any favors to just have someone come back and not progress. And for them, like, I don't want to drain someone's bank account in that way. So I maybe not everyone thinks that way, but I think we can resonate a lot on that, where you got to really sit and find what works for you. And like you were saying, it's possible the modality is good, but personalities can be really a factor, and it just keeps you closed off. Like I actually had I had a client the other day. her and I just weren't jiving. And it was to a point where I could actually tell talking with her, she didn't actually want to be there. And I just kind of went, you know what? You're going to get on my table and I'm going to have to do all the work here and I'm going to have to force it on you. And you're not even going to accept it. Like, it won't even get that placebo effect, even if like just by being there. So I just said, look, don't think it's a good idea. And I sent her on her way because at one point as a therapist too, you don't want to, we have our spoons too for the day on how we manage our clientele. So you don't want to give all your spoons to one spoony vampire, if I'm saying that right.
Totally. Yeah. No, and what that got me thinking about is so many times we have patterns, and these patterns can be keeping us stuck in certain ways that actually are blocking our ability to heal. And for example, like me going from person to person and trying every single thing, like I think it was like over 70 people I saw in the span of like 4 years. I can now look back and realize that was one of my patterns, is like constantly switching and not trusting and going and just continuously like overdoing it, which I've also seen show up in the way I run my business. It's like, okay, let me try this platform and this new tech platform. And I'm always shifting. And like, that's helped me really realize like, okay, that's a pattern of mine. And what is it rooted in? It's like always thinking there's something better out there and just like not just settling. Whereas other people, maybe you're someone who hasn't at all explored getting any support at all. You're trying to do it all on your own, reading books and whatnot. And it's like, well, maybe that's revealing a pattern that it would benefit you to open up to receiving support and help, which can be really hard to receive for some people. Yeah. And there's just so many different ways that patterns can show up in people, and to really be aware of that and how it could be impacting your recovery.
Yeah. So do you find when people come to see you for help that there can be some resistance? Like they might be curious, but they're not sure? Or usually when they come to you, it's because they're pretty convinced that like you're going to be the one to help them?
Yeah. I do have lower ticket programs, but I intentionally have higher priced programs because I really want people to commit and like believe in it. And that, it might sound like marketing speak, but for me, I really believe like transformation happens through a transaction. And when you're willing to invest in yourself and put yourself first and believe in the ability, like that can lead to a huge transformation. And it's also why I offer a 100% money back guarantee, because I know when you show up 100% and believe in the program and working with me and the community, like you are going to see amazing results. But I'd be lying if I said there haven't been a couple of people that I have returned the money because it didn't work for them. And I don't feel guilty because I know like they weren't the right fit. They didn't show up fully invested, and that's okay. I don't want to keep money from anyone who isn't ready. I also have people who like were super resistant and like maybe commented like some mean, well, not necessarily mean, that's where the state they were at, but like things that hurt me at the time on posts and like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And then later come around and are able to realize like, oh, like actually this has been really helpful. So people are at all different stages of their journey. And for me, sometimes what is the medicine is what we resist in the beginning. And so like for me, I was so resistant to PRP injections for so long. And then eventually I opened myself up to it. And like, or I used to have real issues going to the optometrist. Like I would throw up and pass out and it would just be horrible, even before I became a Spoonie. And then like going to vision therapy and doing all that work, prism lenses, all that stuff ended up being really beneficial for like my vision problems. So it's like sometimes you have to really look at what you're experiencing resistance towards, because that could be giving you clues too about what you might actually really need.
Absolutely. Sometimes that's where the thing we need the most is what we're resisting, because there must be some part of us that's either driven through fear of change or just fear of the work we're going to have to do. And maybe we're afraid of who will become on the other side of it. So
And that's what's so interesting is when people join my program and then they start to see improvement so quickly, a lot of times they can fall back into old patterns and like their nervous system can feel unsafe, because when you've been living with chronic pain and fatigue, when you suddenly start to feel better, actually that feels unsafe to your nervous system, which has now learned that being unsafe is safe. That's our status quo. So it's just so interesting how our brains and bodies work and to go through that journey with people.
Yeah. Like your brain almost wants you to just be safe, even if safe means not well. It just, your brain wants you to be in a comfort zone. So anytime you try to push towards any kind of personal growth, any type of health improvement or changing new habits that are actually good for you, funny enough, there's always that uphill battle of it's like your primal brain that just wants to be back to what it knows, even if it's not healthy or good for you.
Absolutely. It's like anytime I go through a big expansion, like gain lots of new followers on Instagram, or like a lot of people join the program, so this abundance is flowing through, selling my condo, it's really natural for after an expansion for a contraction to follow. And I used to get really disappointed in that, like, what is this? I just need to keep going up, up, up. But I realized that's really part of the process. Like, you can't expand without the contraction. And it's just this ebb and flow as your nervous system learns to calibrate to this new level that you're reaching.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing how that's it. The growth is never in a straight line. It is in peaks and valleys. And yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Healing is never linear.
Excuse me. So Emily, what kind of people usually join your program? I imagine it's not only people who've had a TBI, it's people of all types.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about the Spoonie community is, to be honest, we don't focus on diagnosis at all in our community. Like, everyone in it's like, I have no idea what this other person has, but it doesn't matter because we're here and we're focused on improving. And we realize that at the root is a lot of it is nervous system dysregulation, which shows up in the same way for so many people: headaches, fatigue, aches and pains, trouble sleeping, gut issues like with digestion. And truly anyone who is feeling unwell, whether it's a diagnosed or undiagnosed, still seeking diagnosis, chronic illness, autoimmune condition, an injury. Like, we've had people who but like a broken ankle, and they found themselves on disability leave. And then, this community is exactly what they needed. Even though I was like, I didn't really think I'd just be like, this program would work for someone who just had a physical injury, but it's all the same, like regardless of the source. People who are craving community and really looking for an uplifting community. I know so much of the narrative online, especially around chronic illness, is focused on the doom and gloom. And I'm really trying to be a voice out there that's like, no, chronic doesn't mean that you are going to be sick forever. It just medically is a term that means your symptoms have persisted more than 3 months. It doesn't mean it's a death sentence, even though you might go down the spiral of Googling it and realizing where it says there's no cure, which is horrendous. And I saw that too. So I really try to show up and hold space for our community and be an example of, despite being told I would never get better, despite being told this was my new normal, despite being told this chronic condition would never improve, like, I am proof that it is possible. And we need that. Our brain needs proof that it is possible to improve and recover and heal, or just to live a joyful life again. And that's really what's so powerful about our community.
And also that healing isn't done alone in a vacuum.
No. And in fact, it can't. Like, I believe that co-regulation that happens on our calls together and from our community space, like, you can't heal alone or in isolation. And heal can be such a controversial word for people still stuck in that, like, struggling Spoonie mentality of like, what do you mean heal? That's not possible. But I encourage you to open your mind to, like, healing has so many different meanings, and the emotional and spiritual healing that this journey will bring you on is really beautiful. Yeah.
And to circle back to that co-regulation part, I would love to add, just because I had a brief experience with your community the other day, you invited me to speak to them a little bit. And I was bringing everyone through this meditation exercise, and it's just really wild because I experienced that co-regulation, even though I was the one giving the meditation to you all. I actually calmed something within myself just from the power of us all connecting together. So I can definitely vouch for the power of community, and just in your process, in your journey, you don't have to go it alone. You definitely will benefit from other people helping you along. And the Spoonie community seems like such a wonderful place to do that.
Thanks. No, that's so beautiful that you shared that. And yeah, I used to think, like, can you still get that connection online? But a lot of Spoonies don't have the energy to go to a physical space, and we're from all over the world in our community. So you truly feel there are people I feel so connected to that I've only ever met on Zoom. And I've had the chance to meet some of our community members, like when I happen to be traveling and in person, and it feels like I already know them. It's no different when I meet them in person because I feel connected to them online. So I think it's really great that we have this accessible way to connect with each other.
Accessible is exactly the word I was going to say. Like, you've probably enabled a better way for these people to help get further in their journey because of it all being on Zoom. Whereas before they would have felt like, oh, I don't have enough spoons to make it this week. Like now you have the option. It's right on your laptop if you feel like you can. And some days I imagine it can be too much also, but hey, it's making it almost as easy as possible to be able to connect, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And in the beginning, some people show up with their screens off, microphone off, just lying down in bed. And that's totally okay. It's really cool to see over the course of the program, everyone improve and start to show up and like be bubbly with their camera on and being engaged. And just to see everyone go through their own transformation is just, it honestly brings me so much joy. And it's just such a full circle moment for me to be able to go and realize like, yeah, this whole journey started with a car accident and it led me to where I am now. And like, that's a really beautiful thing.
From pain to purpose. Emily Fraser, everybody. Emily, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's so lovely to connect.
Emily, where can everyone find you one more time? Pimp yourself out. Tell us any offers you have, or we'll definitely include your stuff in the show notes, but take us away. Tell us what you got.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram at the Spoonie Mentor, Spoonie, Spoonie. My website's the same, thespooniementor.com. And I have a podcast, the Spoonie Podcast. You can go and check this out. I'm going to re-air this episode on my podcast as well. So
nice.
That'll be fun. But yeah, just feel free to DM me. I'm super open, happy to share my different offerings based on what's going on with you. I have self-paced courses to 4-month group programs to all sorts of fun things and tons of free resources. So definitely hit me up in a DM and share your story, and I'm happy to help you.
Sounds like anyone who might be struggling can really benefit from your help, Emily. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of today's episode of the Holistish podcast. Ready to take your wellness journey further? Visit Holistish, that's holistic with an SH at the end, .com, to access our latest resources and wellness tools designed to support your holistic health journey. For holistic health inspiration and a behind-the-scenes look at integrating traditional wisdom with modern wellness, join our growing community on Instagram at the.holistish. If today's episode resonated with you, subscribe so that you never miss out on our weekly episodes, and leave a quick review to help other wellness seekers find us. Until next time, stay curious, stay balanced, and keep exploring what works best for your unique body and mind. Your health journey matters, and I'll meet you right back here next week.